And welcome back to another edition of Choreographed Critics Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome to the show, everybody. That was Joel, and I'm John.
Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode.
This week we will be previewing the Crown Jewel show coming up on Saturday in Saudi Arabia.
That's
There's there's a number of matches on the show. I think we're up to 7. Well, I guess 6 for sure, and one's a maybe. But yeah, we got some interesting stories going into this. Is there anything you're particularly excited about with this card, Joel?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you said we could have 7, one's up in the air, and that is Bronson Reed versus Seth, right? Due to
Right.
what happened on Monday Night Raw. It seems like Bronson Reed's forte is backstage brawls. Um, so we'll see if Seth comes out and we exchanged a few texts earlier today, and you said, well, he probably is gonna come down the ramp, half injured, not cleared, and be like, I'm gonna fight because I'm Seth freaking Rollins.
Exactly.
Um, so I hope he makes it. I'm most excited for Gunther versus Cody because I think it's potentially a classic. And for those who aren't aware, Crown Jewel is taking place in Saudi Arabia, hence the glorified title belt with all the oil diamonds encrusted in it.
Yeah.
But it will be viewable in the afternoon, which I kind of like. I kind of like a Saturday afternoon watching the PLE versus in the evening. But yeah, Gunther versus Cody is where it's at. I think Randy versus Kevin Owens is another potential classic. If they keep it clean, I want to see a nice clean fight. But there seems to be, this is a grudge match, right? So it's going to spill out. It's going to be a little nasty. We have KO becoming a heel. He's full heel. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with all those. I'm also really excited for Andrade versus Mello versus LA Knight.
Ah,
That could potentially open the show. I think there's a couple different matches that could potentially open the show. I think that's one of them. I think KO and Randy might, though, ultimately. Um, they added on social media Roman Reigns and the Usos fighting against the Bloodline. It's
mm,
kind of funny with this. So they were doing the pre-taped SmackDown again. So like on last Friday, they had 2 shows for the live audience. And I'm pretty sure that's why we got this announcement on social media, because I don't think we were supposed to see this yet. Um,
oh,
like something's gonna happen in a couple days here, and then they're gonna be fighting in Saudi Arabia.
okay.
And toward the end of Raw, we had that moment where you see Jimmy and Jay Uso like overhearing Sami Zayn
Mm.
talking with Solo Sikoa on his way out. Um, so I don't know if that's going to tie in on Friday somehow, or
A
what
lot
they're
of
going to do
history
with that.
there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that'll be all interesting. And then, like you said, there's the Gunther versus Cody match. On the women's side, there's Liv Morgan versus Nia. Same idea. The 2 women's champions fighting for the ultimate crown jewel grand champion. I don't know what it's officially called, but it's supposed to be like you're the champion of champions, supposedly. Even though we won't
That's
see
right.
it probably
Yeah.
ever after this.
Yeah, it's going to stay in Saudi Arabia most likely. But you also have to add in the factor of Stiffy time or Tiffy time. She she has the Money in the Bank contract in her back pocket, and with the recent events with Candice LeRae, which I don't know, how do you feel about Candice LeRae kind of coming out of the woodwork to be part of this little,
I
this little
like it.
conflict.
I
Yeah,
like it a lot. Like I think she's really underutilized. So it's kind of fun, I think.
it is. It adds another layer to the dynamic. And what else? Because you have to instigate this rivalry between Tiffany Stratton and Naya, and you can easily just factor in the jealousy, but that's not enough to have Tiffany truly turn against Jax.
Yeah.
So I like what they're doing to kind of show and illustrate who Naya is. Whoever is useful and gets the job done, Nia Jax is going to favor. And if Tiffany cannot do that on a consistent basis, then she's useless. And if Tiffany gets the point, she's going to cash in on her. But we'll see. To your point about Andrade Mello versus Knight, finally we get Knight having a real chance to shine and defend his title. Okay. I love that they put the belt on him defeating Paul. That was beautiful, brilliant. He finally gets to be the star he's been working so hard to be. But he hasn't had a lot of legitimate feuds. So for me, this is a really good feud, and they brewed it so well with the ongoing series of battles between Andrade and Mello. I wouldn't mind seeing Mello take the title, but he's too green. I think Knight will carry the title for a while, but I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Which match do you really want to dig into first and kind of anticipate results?
Yeah, let's start with Randy and KO. Like I said earlier, I think this might start the show. Um
Yeah.
so I don't know how you feel about this feud in general. There's a couple schools of thought with it, right? Because there's the whole okay, obviously KO just turned on Randy's friend Cody. Like this is pretty black and white, right? Like you could look at it that
Yeah.
way. But another way you could look at it is we haven't really gotten a full like despite like the Kevin Owens video that he put out on X or whatever he put it out on, we haven't really gotten a full like KO side of the story thing yet, and that might come on Friday. Um, but there is a way you can construe this that KO is not the bad guy, right? Like you could take in some of the words that Gunther said this week, for example, about Cody, where he said he likes to pull people into his problems, make things more dramatic than they need to be. He doesn't need to
Mm.
win this belt for his daughter. He already did the story for his daughter. Like, you know, that stuff, like, there could be some of that with KO that hasn't come out yet, right? Like, I'm sick of this guy dragging me into his drama and now he's helping Roman. So you could view that as he's not the bad guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Going back to Gunther being a straight shooter as a heel, he also said at the beginning of this, he said, Cody, he said, a friend to everyone is no one's real friend. You can't possibly be, you know, like the politician comment Roman Reigns had previously before Cody finished his story. He said, "You're just a politician, man. The ultimate baby face." I kind of see what Gunther means when he says, "Cody, how can you possibly still be Kevin Owens' best friend when in reality you're just a friend to everybody?"
Right.
So,
So yeah, I could see KO obviously sharing that sentiment. And as far as Randy goes, like yeah, Randy is protecting his friend Cody Rhodes right now. But I mean, if what if he hears KO out, right? Like what if they
mm,
ultimately do have like a hashing things out moment and they're like they give Randy like this weird like, like maybe this weird look towards Cody or like they go back to like him like side-eyeing the belt or like stuff like that. So I could potentially see it going that way too. Um I don't know if they will. I kind of am leaning towards it's just straight up KO's the bad guy and but I just don't see how at some point Randy doesn't turn heel. Like if it's whether
Mm,
it's with KO or like just against Cody, and not maybe with KO, but just against Cody.
good
Um,
point. I thought Randy was next in line for Cody Rhodes. I thought the heel turn would take place before KO, but this is a little more interesting. Like if we just got Orton to turn to feed Cody another legitimate title match, it would have been great, but this is more interesting. Maybe we can have Kevin Owens really bring out the monster in Randy, right?
yeah,
But we'll see. Um, Kevin Owens has that social media effect right now with his heel turn that we haven't seen. Most of his heel work, because they won't let him speak in ring, has been promulgated or kind of shared online. Even his attack against Cody Rhodes has been fan filmed after the show.
right. And so on SmackDown last week, Randy like gives his pitch to Triple H about why this match needs to happen, right? Because like I think it was 2 weeks ago he tried to get the match from Nick Aldis, and Nick said it's above my head, man, and basically like in better words. So he calls out Triple H, and despite what people think, like the whole time Randy's like, just tell me you're protecting Kevin. Just tell me you're protecting Kevin. Just tell me you're protecting Kevin. And he's like, no, I'm protecting you, you idiot. You were out 18 months. Kevin Owens, have you seen what this guy's done in his past? Like, what? No, I'm worried about you. You're the one aging. You're the one that hasn't been a menace. So I'm looking out for you. And I thought that was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I love Nick Aldis. He's a little bit more multidimensional than Raw's GM. I
Hmm.
feel like Raw's GM Adam Pearce is very much so like, yeah, the prisoners are running the prison. I need a drink. I think he says that too. I need a drink.
Yeah.
And so he's always just overwhelmed. Where I love how Nick Aldis actually has the gumption to take control and tell the talent, like, no, this is how we're doing it. No, this is not going to happen. Remember when he first became GM and he got in the face of Reigns? That
Yeah.
was phenomenal. Just to have somebody with a backbone that wasn't a wrestler say like, no, tribal chief, you are under contract working for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's insightful. Randy doesn't have, especially, yeah, I would say he doesn't have other people to lean on SmackDown. So that was great how they threw in Nick Aldis to be his little oracle and be like, whoa, hold up, buddy. Remember who you are. Remember where you are in your career. And Kevin Owens is dangerous right now and volatile. So this is a grudge match. This is a classic grudge match as far as like how you build one.
Definitely.
Um, so who do you have coming out of this?
Um, I think I'm gonna pick Randy.
Yeah. Okay. I want to pick Randy, but I feel like there's going to be a reason for Randy to lose just to get him pissed off to the point that he's going to go after Cody. I don't know how it's going to
Yeah.
unfold, but I'm going to pick Kevin Owens.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. I don't remember the exact stat I heard recently, but there's something like Randy Orton has lost like 16 straight pay-per-view matches or something.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I gotta look it up. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was something astounding where I was just like, he's kind of due now. Like maybe it's not this one,
Okay.
maybe it's next one, but
I mean, I haven't seen that stat, but thinking just in the back of my head now, you're kind of right. He's just been there to kind of put over people lately.
right.
And I mean, his return to Survivor Series was immaculate in some ways because he came back and he was like bigger than before. He's better than before. A little overshadowed by CM Punk's return. Um, but yeah, you're right. He's been losing a lot. So I'm still gonna stick to my guns on this one because I'm thinking about the narrative for, and I'm thinking like what is Cody Rhodes going to do with his title and his direction. So again, I'm going to say Kevin Owens. Reason being to build a feud and flip Randy towards disliking or going after Cody. Like in some weird way, Randy will be like, you know what? You're right, Kevin.
I could
So,
see it. Yep, definitely. And then I guess the next match we can transition to will be Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax.
mm,
There isn't too much to this match, right? Like it's based around these new belts, like we had talked about off the top. Champion versus champion. The only real build has been like they've been interfering on each other's shows here and there.
yeah.
Um, Nia wants Tiffy to cash in on Liv. Um, there's the stuff going on with Candice LeRae, like you were saying.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Uh, um, so I don't, yeah, I don't really have too much to say with this match. I don't think Tiffany's gonna cash in. I like it's possible. It's always possible. Um, I don't see it happening here. I'm not sure what you think on that, but do you have any other
You know,
words, thoughts?
well, first thing that comes to mind is I would rather see Rhea Ripley versus Jax.
Oh yeah,
Um, I don't like Liv in the Judgment Day. I'm not too fond of what's going on Raw with the women's division.
yeah,
Um, and Ripley was such a strong, powerful figure, and so is Nia Jax, that to me, this whole match is more about Tiffany and whether or not she's going to cash in. And the actual feud between Liv and Nia and obtaining the crown jewel belt is kind of null and void. No one cares. Like at the end of the day, it's new, it's a gimmick, it's PLE exclusive as far as we know, and no one really cares who wins this. But people do care about whether or not Tiffany Stratton's going to cash in on Nia or Liv Morgan. And if it doesn't happen at Crown Jewel, then this match is just kind of going to be a sleeper.
sure, yeah. With that said, I think Nia Jax wins.
I do too. I think Nia wins just because of the hot streak she's on. I mean, you have her take the women's division by storm. She's queen of the ring. Why not give her this as well? And I do think we're going to see either a botched cash in or a full cash in.
Okay, yeah. And I think you brought this up one of the last episodes, just how they've had the trajectory of Gunther winning the King of the Ring. He won the world
Yep.
title. Now he might win this thing. It kind of looks like he will. They could do absolutely the same thing with Nia Jax.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if they do it for both of them, that'll be interesting. But yeah, they're both similar in that regard.
A match that we're both very excited for, Andrade versus Mello versus
Mm.
LA Knight for the US title. Um, on SmackDown, LA Knight was guest referee for Game 7, they're calling it now, of their
That's right.
series. Like it's the NBA Finals or something. Um,
Yeah.
so he was the guest referee. You could tell at the beginning he wasn't taking it seriously at all. Like he just was wearing his brown vest over the ref uniform. He had the
With the
world
belt on.
championship. Yeah. He had the belt on the entire time. Or not the entire time, it came off. But yeah, like the sunglasses, the circles, like just he wasn't taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Um so he ended up crashing the party, I guess you could say, because he just ends up giving both of them a BFT. He doesn't like either of these guys. He doesn't care. It's game
No.
7. He doesn't. There's no significance of game 7 to him. He just wants to keep his title and fight whoever's next and get on with it. But in lieu of that, he gets himself booked into a triple threat match for the title, and it's at a PLE, which hasn't been the case lately with the US title or IC for that matter. It's three guys that we all really like right now. They're running the mid card. They're doing some great stuff. Like every time, like I think there was even something in this game 7 that like I hadn't seen him do yet, and it was just such a short, like quick thing. It's like, how do they still have new things they can do? Um, but yeah,
They're not running out of steam. They're at the top of their game, all three of them. And it's hard to say who's going to come out on this, but if you think about it from like a business standpoint, I have my money on LA Knight retaining. But if you think of it from a technical standpoint, Andrade is so deserving. If you recall Mello being very fresh to the main roster, he cut a few promos with Knight. They've been building this for quite some time with the series of matches, but also the promos Mello's been cutting with Knight. And I remember Mello completely messing up his lines and
mhm.
LA Knight rifting with that and kind of being like, well, you got to remember your lines there, young buck. And so I don't, that's an aspect of Mello that needs work. He is green. Andrade is a seasoned veteran with the technicality and skill to make Mello shine. But yeah, the way they've been working with each other, you, you don't need Knight. But Knight is the U.S. champion, and he is at the top of his game as well. So I'm with you. You know, the more I think about it, and it gets me excited because I'm like, Gunther and Cody's going to be a classic. Randy Orton's versus KO is going to be good, but this triple threat could very well be the most entertaining match if they all bring what they've been serving week in and week out. The promos, the technicality, just the visible excitement they have to work with each other. This could be just a banger.
Heck yeah. And with that said, I have no idea who's coming out on top. I agree with what you were saying about just LA Knight kind of keeping it a little longer here. I would like to see Andrade win. Um, so I guess I'm gonna predict Andrade. I'm not
Yeah,
feeling confident with it, but I'm gonna I'm gonna
it's
take it.
deserving. And he was previously a US champ before exiting the WWE
Right.
and going to AEW. And then you still have the I won't call it an angle because they don't broadcast it as such, but Charlotte Flair and him are still an item, yeah?
Yeah, they're married. Yeah.
So if you put a title on him and she returns to rejuvenate and reinvigorate the women's scene after all this hoopla, perhaps that could be interesting, you know? Maybe
Maybe.
visibly showing their attachment to one another. I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna say LA Knight just because he's so over. He has a lot to give, and I don't think it would be appropriate to just knock him off the mountain just yet.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess if Mello wins, we owe somebody something. um,
We owe Shawn Michaels.
there you go.
There's my guy. Nah, his time's coming. It's just not now.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see it eventually here. I think if him or Andrade win it, they'll be fighting each other for it for quite a while. So,
How
and that
many
could.
Spanish flies will we see?
Ooh.
At least two.
I'm gonna say 1.5. I'm gonna say one good one, one botch. Um, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh
Uh,
man,
so another match on this show, we'll breeze through this one. It's a fatal four-way match for the women's tag team champions.
that's
Uh,
right.
we got why can't I remember her name right now? Jade Cargill, Jade
Yep,
Cargill,
yep.
Bianca Belair, the current champions. They're fighting the Damage Control ladies of. Gosh, I'm so bad with names right now. Kairi Sane,
Io
Io
Sky.
Sky. Thank you.
Yeah, no
uh,
problem.
and then we got Piper Niven and Chelsea Green, and we got Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson from
Yep.
NXT. And they've been featured pretty prominently lately on all the shows. Like they've been in tag team matches on Raw. on SmackDown. Damage Control went and fought them on NXT. I think it was this week, maybe it was last week. I haven't been on top of NXT lately. Um, but anyways, I think they are seeing something with those two that maybe I'm not yet. I don't know. Like I haven't seen enough to really give like a true judgment to those two, but they're in this faction in NXT called the Metaphor. Um, and the two guys that are with them are pretty like like I don't know. It's just it's not exciting to me, those guys, but like I said, they see something in them that I don't probably. What have you thought of their mini main roster run so far?
It's interesting because like you think of NXT as the developmental scene, but there's so much crossover that as somebody who views the main roster as the big time, I get confused sometimes because they'll have the crossover and you know they're pushing them for a reason. They see something in them. But then when you get to the draft, and this is kind of a tangent, but I just to kind of circle back and make my point. You get somebody like Braun Breaker, right? He gets drafted. And then when he hits the main roster, he's doing squash matches against jabronis, jobbers. And so sometimes I'm very confused with their approach to NXT. It's like they want to test some of their talent, so they'll do a crossover, and then some of the talent that they've developed, they officially draft, but then they don't treat them as if they've made it yet.
Right.
And so anyway, going to these two, the meta I love the name actually. It's so metaphorical. No, it's like it's kind of silly. Um I think with anybody coming out of NXT, the in-ring work is not in question. That's why they're here. That's why they're doing the PLE. It's the complete package you're looking for. Can they get over with the crowd without being cheesy, without doing some cringy promo work? And that's where I kind of draw the line with people doing crossovers from NXT. A lot of those people, including these two women, don't have that solidified, concentrated package yet.
Yeah.
So to me, they're just filler. They're there to cross over and demonstrate and draw in audience to go, oh, you remember that match on the PLE? Oh, well, they're on NXT. I got to go check out NXT. So I think it's just WWE being clever in the way they pluck and plug talent. That's the word. It's WWE plugging NXT. It's not so much that they really think these two gals are the big time and they're ready for it, but they're good enough to draw the audience back around to NXT, hopefully. That's my opinion on those
Sure.
two. Now, for the actual match, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair are a unit because if you separated them, they would be an intense rivalry.
Hmm.
And I'm waiting for it. You know it's going to happen. It's just, I mean, they mirror each other. The physicality, and you are right. Cargill needs to work on a few things, but she could easily surpass Belair.
Think so?
And I do. I really do. If you just give her a little bit. See, the thing with Belair is she's. I hate to say this because it's like I'm a white guy. It sounds slightly racist, but she's ghetto fabulous. She taps into that market. You know, she
Sure.
gives young women something to look forward to in this industry. And Bianca Belair does that with a big old smile on her face, and she does it so well. Cargill, she is refined, but she still feels like a product. She isn't organically over. She isn't Cargill isn't tapping into some weird niche demographic. Cargill is a wrestler trying to find herself, where Bianca Belair is that organically sourced female superstar that is tapping into an audience WWE sorely wants to tap into. But in the long run, John, I think Cargill separated from Belair, it's a natural thing for those two to butt heads and have Belair put her over. I mean, how long has Belair been with the company now, and how many more title runs does she have?
That's a good question. It was around 2016 she joined NXT, something like that. One thing I wanted to say, to me, like, other than like the character itself, I think that
Yeah.
like Bianca is just far superior in athleticism to Jade. Like, as
Mm,
far as like being able to do some of these flippy moves and just, I think she
that's
sells better
true.
too. And like Jade just is a brute to me. Just yeah, she's very strong. She's very
Yeah.
strong. And yeah, I get her personality is probably okay or good for what they want it to be. Um but yeah, I just feel like Bianca's just such a better athlete, much more well-rounded. And like Jade could get there with the promo, I guess, but like I don't know. I think Jade'll just be too one-dimensional. I don't know what other kind of like element she could add, really. Um that's anyways, we're maybe getting too into those two specifically, not
Yeah,
the
the
match at hand here.
meta-analysis. No,
um
you're right. She is a powerhouse, and Belair is the EST, and she has that. It's not just a gimmick; she lives it and proves it. So I agree with you there. I just think in the long run, if you let those two feud,
yeah,
Cargill would be a magnificent heel to have Belair put over. But
yeah, I could see that going that way as well. As far as this match goes, I I think they retain, despite like this being set up for them not getting pinned and losing. Like that's just that's built into a triple threat fatal four way. Any of them is, oh, the champ doesn't have to be the ones pinned, and then they have a case. We weren't pinned, we didn't lose it. So, but I think ultimately they're just gonna retain, and that's not gonna fall that way
I agree. Piper Niven and they're kind of they're kind of in the past. They're there because it's a four-way match. Let's just be real. They don't have. They're probably the least likely to take the titles in this, to me.
yeah.
So I agree with you. I think they're going to retain, and we're not going to see the titles change hands here. And I think the NXT women, the crossover will end after the PLE, and it's just a plug.
For sure. And moving on to the next match, we're gonna potentially see Seth Rollins versus Bronson Reed. We say potentially because there was a parking lot brawl on Raw this week, and at the end of it, or a little bit further in the show, they do say that Seth ended up at a local medical facility. Um,
That's right.
so this has been kind of fun in a way. Like I'm not huge on Bronson Reed. I think I'm a little higher on him than you, but I'm not sure. um I like the whole like we're gonna try to make this big guy a thing. Like whether it's through parking lot brawls or doing the tsunami 12 times to somebody or whatever it may be. They're like, "Hey, we're going to make this guy look strong." He was the reason Seth Rollins got hurt. Seth is coming for redemption essentially, but he got hurt again here, or so they say. Um, do you think this match happens?
I sure hope so. I'm excited to see what happens. We were texting back, and I was saying, how great would it be to see Reed get put over by Seth and have Seth turn full heel instead of being a tweener. By the way, that's a term I recently discovered. Apparently, you've been aware of it.
Yeah,
I didn't know that there was this gray area for face and heels where they're, but it makes sense to me because I've thought about it and I thought, there are a lot of guys who I go, you know what, they are kind of lukewarm to either side of the spectrum. And yeah, I want to see. Rollins, make Reed shine, because we don't have a lot of big guys right now in the scene, man. Some of my favorite matches since Levesque has taken over production have involved Reed. One thing that stood out, do you remember when Reed had a match with one of the Viking Raiders? Well, they're now the War Raiders again, but I believe it was Ivar. They had this fantastic match, and Ivar is very athletic, by the way. And so to see these two behemoths slap meat, as Wade Barrett says, uh, you know, he has so much potential. And then what they did recently with the monster brawl between him and Braun Strowman and that backstage tsunami splash on top of the car. Dude, yeah, push this guy. That was awesome. It was the crunch and everything. And when I first saw the big Aussie Reed come into the scene, I'm like, oh, okay, his promos are kind of cheesy. He's a little over the top. But the more I see of him and the more he works with talented people who can actually do something with his size, he's kind of speedy, right? Reed is kind of
Oh, yeah.
speedy for his size. This is perfect. Rollins is nimble. Rollins has a fantastic track record of working with people who are underdeveloped and bringing out the best in them. So, yeah, I want this match to happen. If it doesn't happen, and I hope if it doesn't happen, they somehow make it a main event on next week's show or something like that. Because
Yeah.
without guys like Omos, which honestly, just release the guy. Isn't MVP gone? MVP is in AEW now, right?
Yeah.
So have they cut Omos? I mean, that's another topic. The point is who else do you have besides Braun Strowman and Reed to be your big, meaty monsters on
Right.
the main roster? So yeah, if it happens, my money's on Reed. And I was texting you, and this is kind of wishful thinking because it doesn't make sense in the moment with Reed's monster gimmick. But I want him to turn face, and I want to see Seth Rollins do something real nasty where he officially turns heel if this match takes place at Crown Jewel.
Okay. Yeah. I agree that Bronson wins. I think they're gonna do um that angle where they're like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to compete, but I'm going to anyway because I'm Seth freaking Rollins." And it's a really silly angle to go with when you're overseas. Like you wouldn't have made the trip, right? Like there's no
That's right.
oh, I might be able to do this match, so I'll get on that plane just in case. Like no. Um
No, fight through the jet lag.
so but yeah, ultimately I think Bronson Reed comes out on top on this one. Uh Another match, they, like I was saying earlier, they announced this on social media, Roman Reigns and the Usos versus the Bloodline. Um
Yes.
so we're assuming after Raw that Jay and Jimmy are, they're just good now, right? And Roman, I guess they have to be good with Roman for this match to be happening, but I'm not convinced that Jay's fully okay with just Roman and like being a teammate of his versus just kind of being away from the whole thing. Um
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, the Usos coming back together, there's definitely some bad blood still there. And I think we discussed before or previously on older episodes that Jay doesn't need the belt to do this. And it looks like we were right.
yeah. And that was I don't know. I thought there was going to be more that came out of how Jay lost, because there was like the moment where Solo shoves Jay out of the way and takes a spear from Braun Breaker, but then Jacob Fatu costs him at the end. I thought maybe there would be some sort of like discussion there, maybe between Solo and Jacob, like if they weren't on the same page, because it looks like two different intentions there, but now after the fact, it's like, oh, Solo's just he didn't want Jay to win. It seems like, um,
Yeah, yeah, whatever the cost is, type deal.
right. Um, so I guess without knowing what happens on Friday, I don't know the direction of this match. Like if they're gonna just put Roman and the Usos over right away, and if they do, why? Like, is this happening so fast? Um, so I kind of think the Bloodline comes out on top, but I'm curious if you have other thoughts about what maybe could happen with this match because again, we don't really know um, until Friday SmackDown happens.
Right. Yeah, a lot could happen then as far as framing this match. Um, to me, is this going to kind of bring out the final boss, bring out The Rock, give us a real reason to insert him into this feud? Because you finally have the OTC, the original Bloodline, versus the illegitimate, new Bloodline. And the only thing that's missing now, you got Cody out of the picture doing a match with Gunther. Thank God. I didn't want Cody to be just doing this until WrestleMania. The only thing missing is The Rock. And I don't know. The rumor mill is churning. Everybody, The Rock's been hit or miss with is he there? Is he, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't think we've been pretty good at predicting when he's going to insert himself into this feud. Um, I don't know if Crown Jewel is the place to do it. I'm kind of leaning on your side saying let's put Solo in a position to win this match. I'm not sure how they will do it. Probably not clean, but this is the bloodline we're talking about. When did Roman ever finish clean when he was defending his title? The
yeah,
whole aspect of the strong family bond and the tribalism of the bloodline is to finish things at all, do whatever is necessary to maintain authority and superiority against your opponent. So they would be wise to let Solo win this one and string us along into a bigger build and then insert The Rock to be like, I'm siding here. This is where the buck stops. Kind of almost like the decider, the elder, even though he has nothing to do with like what do you call? I always butcher it. The red
the
necklace.
Ulafala.
Yeah, thank you. He still has this pull as an elder in a family. He bonds the family,
Yeah,
So whatever side he takes is a big deal. And he's obviously a heel, so he's going to take Solo side. But will he do it at Crown Jewel? Probably not.
yeah, and you got my wheels turning a little bit when you said like they're not going to win clean, right? Like,
Yeah.
so this could be an opportunity that they introduce a new bloodline member, right?
Oh shit. Yeah. Numbers game.
So yeah, they just have somebody interfere. We don't know who it is. I've heard rumors there's some other family member in the company. I don't know how long he's been around or if he's officially even. Um, so yeah, I'm starting to think that way now because if they do want to take this into like a war games match, they're not going to do a 3v3. So here's your opportunity to have Roman and the Usos lose, and it's because of some fill in the blank person, right? Maybe it's not a new
Right.
Bloodline member. Maybe it's Sami Zayn based on what we just saw on Raw. Um,
Yeah.
and if it is Sami Zayn, then maybe in a few weeks or next week we get a new like somebody aligning with Roman and the Usos then instead of with Solo if it's Sammy. Um, so yeah, I think we're on the same page with that one. Like there really isn't a reason not to put Solo and the Tongans and Fatu over in this.
Yeah.
Um, oh yeah, there's four of them already. So like, man, I gotta see which three are fighting. Do you know by chance which three are fighting
I
Roman and the
I
Usos?
I hope Fatu's in it, but for some reason in my head, I think it's Usos Roman versus Solo and the Tongans.
Yeah, that's probably it. Um,
Um, I will say though, like, yeah, I agree with you 100%. We have to get the fans a little bit more bittered and pissed off at Solo. You can't just have the momentum Roman Reigns has right now with like the fans being on his side and they want him so to take back what is rightfully his. You can't have that unfold here. And to be honest, historically, Crown Jewel has never been the place to capstone big builds.
No.
It's been, for the most part, a weird celebration of Saudi Arabia. And I mean, it's not weird because it's taking place in Saudi Arabia. But my point is I don't recall any Crown Jewel uh, tidying up loose ends.
No. No. It never has. And yeah, every match I can think of that's happened there, it's been this kind of build where you just kind of don't care. Like as cool as these like champion versus champion matches are, like they didn't really build these. Like they didn't have to. It's built in. Like you're a champion,
Yeah.
you're a champion. Um oh, I guess with that in mind, we have one last match, which is this champion versus champion. It's Gunther versus Cody. Um
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
hopefully no Bill Goldberg sightings.
Oh, you know, John, come on. Oldberg is gonna come out of the spear Gunther. And then Brock Lesnar's gonna come help his pal Cody.
Yeah,
I
just
don't
both of them. Oh
Yeah,
my
both of them are
gosh.
gonna attack Gunther. No, I hope Goldberg stays out of it. But let's be honest. Why was he there? Why
Yeah,
did he? Why did it? You can't just say, "Ah, it was Atlanta." Triple H didn't have him do any promo. They could have just panned the camera, be like, "Check it out, Bill Goldberg is still involved in professional wrestling."
right?
But instead, no, he exchanged words, and there's a reason for that. So sadly, John, your best buddy, Oldberg, might appear, especially with the Saudis. I wasn't aware that, like, after you told me, I went and watched clips. I didn't realize that the Saudis were like, yeah, let's have Goldberg at Crown Jewel and let's have him face, you know. So unfortunately, I'm going to say a 70% chance that there's interference from Oldberg.
70.
Um,
It's high.
I really think I do because like, can you have a clean, can you have a Randy Orton versus Gunther level match between your two big draws? Because you can, once you have somebody beat, like if Gunther beats Cody clean or Cody beats Gunther clean, those are your two big main characters. It really takes a big chunk out of their stature as champions.
Yeah.
Even if it's at Crown Jewel, you just can't have one of these guys finish clean. So I do think large chance you're going to see Oldberg.
So, with that said, does he help Cody then?
He helps Cody, yeah, yeah.
And does that help Cody win? Because I still think Gunther comes out somehow with it.
I hope so. You know me, I'm like Gunther's my guy. But gosh, I don't know because I was gonna say without Goldberg, 100%, I think Gunther takes this. With Goldberg potentially inserting himself, nah, I don't know. Maybe come away with this weird title belt that he leaves in Saudi Arabia till next year. Um, but and that's
Yeah.
another question. Do these guys defend it next year, or is it always just your two champions battling for it for that one time you get to take the trophy home type deal? Add this to the resume.
Yeah, I think it's just that, but it would be kind of cool if they built it up like, okay, here's last year's crown jewel champion, right? And then they have like some sort
Mm-hmm.
of almost king of the ring type of tournament to face the crown jewel champ. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't see him doing that because you have to then guarantee that your crown jewel champion is healthy and still the company. Um, so I don't see him booking a year out for this kind of thing.
Yeah. What would be really wild? because of the tiny, tiny little hint Cody Rhodes had in a promo with Gunther where he said, I've already defeated a beast, otherwise known as Brock Lesnar, as Paul Heyman says. Um, it would be really wild if for some reason Brock Lesnar comes out and still has like a grudge against Cody. I don't know why, because it would. And then Bill Goldberg comes out and you have this isn't gonna happen, but that'd be
No.
wild. It maybe in the Vince days it would happen. The Saudis would be like, "Can you do this?" And Vince would be, "Oh yeah, definitely."
You know what they're
I don't
missing
know.
out on here is having Brock Lesnar be the crown jewel champion, and he never leaves Saudi Arabia. And then somebody goes there annually to fight Brock Lesnar.
You're gonna fight Brock Lesnar, the crown jewel champion.
Canceled in
Oh,
the
that
U.S.
would be great. And he can wear a little like ceremonial Saudi. Yeah, I am totally down with that. And then there's a documentary on Netflix where Brock Lesnar he like leaves Canada, leaves his farm life behind, and he no longer wants to be called a Viking, and he's gone fully integrated into Muslim culture.
Oh gosh.
And he's just a peaceful dude.
Oh,
The older he gets, he becomes more of a pacifist. We should pitch this.
yeah. All right. We'll get Sean on the phone or Triple H, whoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I I think we both picked Gunther, right? Or
We both picked Gunther, but I am going to say that I just have this deep gut feeling that there's a reason why Goldberg was in a promo, and I'll leave it at that. Uh, but if you have this match happen in a way that it's just one on one, no interference, Gunther's going to take it, and it's going to be magnificent. And we might have a classic on our hands. And I hope that is the case because, dude, Cody Rhodes is phenomenal. He is. He's really good, but Gunther's better. And I will say that through and through, and time again. Gunther is the best wrestler in the sport right now.
hard to argue that. It really is. Um Was there anything else you wanted to talk about that happened the past couple weeks at all before we take off here? One thing I wanted to just kind of draw attention to was the SmackDown Tag Team Championship situation. Uh,
Yeah.
so they they had the number one contenders match for the tag team titles. It was DIY versus the Motor City Machine Guns, who that would have been their second match in WWE. Um, the entire time on commentary, when you hear about Motor City Machine Guns, is just like, oh yeah, we used to sleep under each other's beds. Like I slept under a bed, and somehow he slept under me when I was under a bed. Like, just these like road scenarios. Just sat on a pizza box every day. That was my chair. But so they're in the company for a cup of coffee and they end up going over DIY. I think they're very talented. I really didn't follow anything about these guys ever, so it's all new to me, but it does seem like they are the like definition of a tag team. Like they just look like they know what they're doing. They're always in sync. Um so they beat DIY, but then in the same night, they get confronted by the Bloodline, and those guys are just like, we're not as scared of you, the Bloodline. Like we've barely been here. We don't even know. We'll take you on. Um, so then they pull double duty and they end up beating the Bloodline with the help
That
of
was wild.
Jey Uso. Um, I can't remember last time I've seen that really. Like, there's been like Iron Man matches and what do you call them? Gauntlet. That's not Iron Man.
Yeah.
Gauntlet. Gauntlet is what I was thinking of. So they like kind of pull double duty in that sense, but like that just doesn't happen. And they were like fresh the entire time. They look great.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
so I'm not mad that they won this off the Bloodline. I don't even know why the Bloodline had the titles, really, to be honest.
Right.
Um,
To me, it was to legitimize the new bloodline.
I suppose, yeah, because they didn't have anything to legitimize them at all, because they just had their leader Solo who just loses all the time, and yeah. Um, so yeah,
But I go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just wanted to bring attention to that match and that scenario because it was very unique. But otherwise, it's been a pretty like chalk couple weeks just trying to get these nothing builds into this pay per view. Um,
That was great though, wasn't it? It kind of felt like something from the indie scene, you know? And wow, cardio machines. Talk about stamina. That's what you were getting at. These guys are the real deal. And part of me thinks like, are these two hand selected by Triple H? They seem like Triple H guys. Like,
Potentially.
it, I mean, let's think about, consider this, John. Motorhead, Motor City. Triple H loves motors. Like anything that can rev up its engine and go forever, Triple H is going to give him a spotlight.
Yeah, I mean
I,
they have a Triple H style to it. Like they seem like they worked in NXT for years, even though they didn't. Um,
yeah, they're like roughnecks, but believable roughnecks.
yeah,
And no, it was fun. I was watching it, and even my wife's like, "There's no way these guys are gonna win. Why are they closing the show like this?" I'm like, "Oh, it's probably just to like give another reason for Roman Reigns to interfere." And but no, the way they had him win and take the titles, even with Jey Uso and his involvement, I don't care. It was really cool, really surprising, and awesome, man. These two going forward, I'm going to tune in. They're fun to watch. They don't break a sweat. They're on point, and they have that organic chemistry together that you don't tag teams have. Even DIY with their history and their yeah, they're great and everything, but some of what they do feels like a product where I think when I was listening to you, you kind of hit the nail on the head. These guys have short backstory, but they don't need the backstory. When you watch them work together, it tells the whole tale.
yeah. You're like these guys
Yeah,
have been together for 15 years. Like there's no doubt. Um,
for sure. Yeah.
and going back to DIY quick, so obviously part of their loss was Johnny Gargano accidentally super kicked Champa. And I just thought of this now. I'd completely forgotten about it. Champa on Instagram had a picture just of his face getting kicked in, no caption, nothing. It was just Johnny Gargano's boot to his face. So
Yeah.
look out for a breakup potentially. I don't
Yeah.
know if they'll hate each other, but I I think it's good though. Like bringing Motor City Machine Guns in, and like on Raw side, you got the War Raiders back now. Like it seems like
Ooh.
there's just they're building a good foundation of tag teams now
Yeah.
finally, and I feel like they could do something like break up a DIY, or like me and you have talked privately about them breaking up the what the fuck are they now? Montez Ford and the other one.
Oh yeah, the Street
Street
Profits.
Profits.
Yeah.
I almost call them Private Party because there's this AEW team called Private Party that is basically the Street Profits. Um,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, like I could see them maybe being like, okay, maybe we could break up DIY or Grayson Waller and Austin Theory or
Yeah. Get these guys who have come up together and give them a title, give them a show, give them a chance. Because you and I both know the Bloodline held the tag team division hostage for no reason. The reason was add prestige to the angle of the Bloodline being the most dominant faction in the history of the sport and blah 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 blah. No, that's gone. It's over. We have other interesting things to attend to. And yeah, man, the tag team division needs the energy of the War Raiders and these guys who are explosive and charismatic in their tag team work, not just charismatic like R-Truth and Miz
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
bullshit to each other. So I'm with you 100%. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention the ending of SmackDown because it was overshadowed by like, oh, I can't wait for Crown Jewel. But if we didn't have Crown Jewel coming up, that would have been a great discussion. So I'm glad you brought that and inserted it into this episode because the tag team division needs to be fun to watch again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel like we had to. If we weren't going to talk about it now, when, right? Like we've been teasing,
yeah,
like talking about Braun Breaker for weeks now, and it still hasn't happened.
right. Well, I think we've been pretty on point with him though,
Yeah,
as far as him being a little having Jey Uso not title. That kind of sums up why Braun Breaker's back where he's, back in the IC spot.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and we'll
but
have
yeah,
more to talk about him another time, I believe. Um, but yeah, I think we're gonna wrap here.
that's a wrap.
Bad Blood, Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel is Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You said earlier that you kind of like these afternoon pay-per-views, and I agree. It's just
Yeah,
kind of nice. Like then you have the rest of the day. Like you're not just like, oh, it's 5. All right, now I got 4 hours of this, and then go to bed
yeah,
or put the kids down, whatever. Like you got
yeah.
plenty of time. So yeah, that'll be Saturday. And Joel, do you have any parting words for us?
I will say be sure to like and subscribe, share if you enjoy the show, the podcast. Check out the clips. If you don't have time for the full show, you can kind of browse and peruse a few clips. Otherwise, we'll be back Sunday with a recap, and John and I will grade each match.
All right, everyone, take care. We'll see you then.